a breeze from the lake, sunlight, a place to relax. A very special place where Manitoulin Island and the Bruce Peninsula reach out to each other between the waters of Georgian Bay and Lake Huron on the Great Lakes. There is a ferry between Tobermory on the mainland and South Baymouth on the island. This is a land of lakes and bays and ancient rocks, warmed by 500 million summer suns, washed and eroded by waters older than life itself. A peaceful part of North America where city folk can feel the sun through cleaner air, and children can learn to know the feeling of the earth. Where an explorer can find relics of history under sunlit water. And where you can see the fish you're going to catch. There's an air of 19th century quiet about Tobermory, a commercial fishing harbor for 100 years and more. The village and its harbors, Big Tub and Little Tub, are still alive with sailboats and pleasure craft. One of the nice things about an island is that you travel back and forth by water. There has been a summer ferry service between Manitoulin and the Bruce Peninsula since 1930. The coal-burning steamship NorIsle and the motor ship Norgoma operated from May to October. The heavy timbered wharves harked back to the days of commercial shipping before the roads and railways served the harbors of Georgian Bay. Whistle of the approaching ship, a crowd would gather to watch the ferry come in. Local people and summer cottagers were there to greet the new arrivals or to speed ongoing travelers on their way. At the height of the season, each ferry made 2 or 3 round trips a day, carrying passengers and 40 or 50 cars on each crossing. Some of the passengers were there just for the fun of the voyage, steaming along at 10 or 12 knots for nearly 3 carefree hours, part of the time out of sight of land. Where else in the center of North America can you enjoy such a voyage? This within easy reach of the bustling metropolitan areas of the lower Great Lakes. Every year, more and more people from the cities headed north. A road connection farther up Manitoulin Island and the ferry to the Bruce Peninsula made possible scenic circle tours. But as the popularity of this holiday land increased, so did the problems of delays. By 1970, the ferry service couldn't handle the traffic. People sometimes waited 6 hours for a crossing, occasionally as long as 24 hours. The parking lots were jammed, and waiting travelers were backed up along the village roads. Picnic areas were limited, garbage disposal inadequate, and public washrooms non-existent. There was no reservation system, and both ships were side loaders, Space inside was inadequate for maneuvering, and in much of the vehicle hold, clearance was insufficient for luggage racks, campers, or trucks. With such congestion, the ferry system reached saturation every few years. Minor improvements would be made, then traffic would increase, and the system would reach saturation again. Potential use in 1970 was greater than ever, but it was beyond the capacity of the old ferries to meet the challenge. The system had served well in its time, but now something had to be done, like a whole new system. In 1972, the province of Ontario, with financial assistance from the federal government, took the initiative. The Owen Sound Transportation Company, which operated the service, was purchased by Ontario Northland. The first decision was to build a single, faster, and larger end-loading vessel. This, of course, would mean new docking facilities and highway links at South Baymouth and Tobermory. The Ontario Ministry of Transportation commissioned Fenco, a Canadian-owned consulting engineering firm with wide experience in transportation and marine projects, to do the work. Fenco would plan, design, and supervise construction of the project. At Tobermory, a community of 250, the ferries docked at the mouth of Little Tub Harbor. Clearly, the new ship would have insufficient room to maneuver. Besides, a bigger wharf here would obstruct the entrance to Little Tub and have a detrimental effect on the environment of the harbor. The solution was to locate the new dock outside the harbor mouth. Further construction would provide a new access road, a holding area for waiting vehicles, and a separate exit route allowing traffic to flow smoothly. Ticket offices and passenger facilities would be in a central terminal building. And best of all, this design would leave the community almost unchanged. At South Baymouth, the new dock would extend the existing wharf with a bulkhead and a series of dolphins, or mooring platforms. The existing road would be kept, and fill over shallow water and a small island would provide land for a new approach and holding area. This would be armored with rock against the waves from Lake Huron. Again, traffic flow is controlled, in one way and out another. And again, the new plan left the village almost unchanged. Spring 1973. Only 9 months after the decision to proceed, construction was underway. It was a job that involved a wide range of engineering and construction know-how, and the schedule was tight, a little less than a year for completion. There were some special difficulties to be overcome. A quarry had to be opened on Manitoulin Island. The charm of these communities lay partly in the fact that they were small and remote, but by the same token, they lacked the water, sewer, and power hookups to support a project on this scale. And 1973 was a year of high water levels on the Great Lakes, creating problems for the builders. An important engineering consideration in this kind of project is minimum dislocation of the community. In Tobermory, the whole project was built around the shop of a local craftsman, Ori Vale. Ori is well known in the area for his handcrafted knives. By land and water, heavy equipment came from the south. A lot of dredging, drilling, and piling would be needed to build the dock. The main structure began at the end of the existing timber wharf, which was quite sound. Underwater drilling and blasting were needed before the rocky bottom could be dredged out to the required 20-foot depth. The new section of the dock was a 500-foot-long bulkhead wall of sheet steel piled, linked to the old wharf. The bulkhead was anchored by steel tie rods at water level and by pins fastened in the bedrock of the harbor bottom. Underwater inspection was routine. Construction had been planned so that the two existing ferries could run as usual. And people continued to enjoy the waterfront. Consideration for the people in the villages was a basic requirement. Noisy work was scheduled accordingly, and extra care and maintenance were laid on to keep disturbance to a minimum. At South Baymouth, a sheet pile bulkhead was driven to connect the new wharf to the old. 24-inch diameter steel pipe was used as piling for the series of dolphins forming the wharf structure. Lengths of the pipe were welded together at the site, as some of the piles had to be more than 100 feet in length to reach down through the water and 80 feet of silt to bedrock. To hold the dolphins secure against the pressure of waves and ice and the impacts of the berthing ship, the piles were anchored into the rock. Concrete caps would form the dolphins. After the piles were driven, silt was jetted out of each pipe and a hole drilled from the top into the rock for the anchor pins. The entrance to South Bay is exposed to waves that develop over a fetch of 140 nautical miles across Lake Huron. Ships are guided in by a line of onshore range lights as far as possible and then turn into South Bay. The blue area on the chart indicates shallow water. In spite of heavy currents, the small ferries could maneuver through the curving channel. But what about the new ship? Model tests of the approach simulating the worst possible wave conditions were carried out for the ship designers, CELL of Victoria, British Columbia. The curve of the existing channel was found to be too sharp, and so Fenco planned a dredging program, cutting across a shallow area to make the channel 400 feet wide and 20 feet deep. The marine blasting operations were scheduled for the 2 summer months. This schedule avoided fish kill in large schools of whitefish which migrate through the area in spring and fall. A monitoring program was worked out with provincial government agencies to record and study any environmental effects of the blasting. To meet the tight dredging schedule, one of the largest dredges in Canada was brought in. At every bite, the Big Dipper stick bucket brought up 8 cubic yards of blasted rock. Bottom hopper scows carried dredged material for dumping to a selected area of deep water. This area was limited to 1,000 feet square to avoid the spread of sediment. The surrounding waters were monitored to ensure the survival of plants and marine life on the lake bottom. January 1974. The new vessel is ready for launching in the shipyards at Collingwood at the foot of Georgian Bay. She is an unusually large passenger vessel for the Great Lakes. She has built-in stability and maneuverability, and she will be a handsome ship. June 15th, the big day is here, the christening. Everybody is happy. The politicians, the townsfolk, the kids, and the engineers. Mrs. Davis, wife of the Premier of Ontario, does the honors. I christen thee Chi Cheemaun. Chi Cheemaun, that's Ojibwe for the big canoe. During the summer, final construction and testing was carried out at the 2 terminals. The hydraulic-powered ramp for loading vehicles was given final adjustments. The system will accommodate a total variation in deck level of 9 feet, which can arise from different loads on the ship and fluctuations in lake level. Wood facing of tropical hardwood, backed by rubber fender units, will absorb any impact when the ship comes in. A pumping station is ready to supply filtered and chlorinated drinking water for picnickers and passengers. The roads are surfaced and await the travelers. The terminal buildings were designed to complement their surroundings, with expansive windows to command a view of the harbor and the lake. At the suggestion of a group of local residents, the walls were built of local stone, warm, solid, real. Tobermory is ready for the arrival of the Chi Cheemaun. There's accommodation for the new end-loading ship, streamlined holding area, and entrance and exit routes. And more space for small boats at the old wharf. Little Tub Harbor is still Little Tub Harbor. And it's all been built into the greenery, so you don't even see it until you're in it. This is engineering on a human scale. Fenco had accomplished what it had set out to do, a plan designed and carried out for the benefit of people. At South Baymouth, the aerial view shows a similar result. A transportation facility neatly wrapped around the quiet village. With a berth for the end loader, easy exit and entrance roads, terminal building and holding area on reclaimed land. Located at the southern end of the largest freshwater island in Canada. And beyond, the road leads to Ontario's North Country. In the fall, the NorIsle made her last run. It was the end of an era. It's September 26th, 1974. The Chi Cheemaun is arriving in Tobermory from Collingwood. "365 feet in length, 62 feet across the beam, draft 13 feet, displacement 3,300 tons. She carries 500 passengers and 113 cars. A big canoe indeed. The personnel from the old ferries are part of the new operation. The ship's bow goes up. The ship's car ramp goes down. The passenger gangway moves into place. The ramp for the vehicles is lowered from the wharf. The cars, which came on through the stern, now roll off through the bow. The turnaround time is 30 minutes, including docking, unloading, and loading. Clearance is high enough for campers, trucks, and buses. In fact, for any vehicle allowed on Ontario highways. A new and efficient reservation system means an end to the long delays for travelers. Cars roll in 2 abreast and move straight forward into position. There's no backing and turning, and owners drive their own cars aboard. With the last passenger aboard, the Chi Cheemaun backs out of her berth, and the bow slowly closes. Then she heads out toward the broad expanse of Lake Huron. The Chi Cheemaun is equipped with the latest electronic navigation aids and safety equipment. Like any first-class cruise ship, the vessel has lounges and a bar, and a cafeteria for a good meal or a quick snack before getting out on deck to enjoy the sea air. The new ship makes the trip in 1 hour and 45 minutes, cruising between the islands and across the open water of the lake. At South Baymouth, the ferry glides past the terminal building at the edge of the village and past the rock-armored shoreline where the cars wait to load. The big vessel ties up alongside the concrete dolphins, solid on their 100-foot-long pipe piles. The families, the honeymooners, the fishermen, the cousins come to stay a while, and the many other travelers disembark to follow their special paths. The cars that boarded through the bow now roll off through the stern door. Roll on, roll off is what they call the system. The problem of traffic circulation between the island and the peninsula has been solved. One vessel has doubled the capacity of the two old ferries combined. But the world doesn't stand still. If the day comes when the big canoe can't handle all the traffic to and from this green land of lakes and islands, then a sister ship will double the capacity again. The Northland is waiting. The harbors are ready.